Okay, number 10, given the environmental concerns on the site, you, the architect, should recommend that the owner do which of the following? So before we'd answer this, we would probably go through and read that phase one and really go through it. I will tell you that if we did that, we would find that sure enough, there is asbestos, lead, and an underground oil tank are all mentioned in that phase one as things to be worried about. So clearly that is a reasonable set of things to be thinking about. But let's look at what the question says. The question says, given the environmental concerns on the site, you, the architect, should recommend that the owner do which of the following? Well, if we actually answered C, we would be saying, we recommend that you remove the asbestos, lead, and the underground oil tank. That's not really something that the architect is commissioned or knowledgeable enough typically to be able to truly say. There are other things we might be doing. We might encapsulate lead paint or asbestos. We might cover an old oil tank in concrete or something and leave it right there. Probably the oil tank we'd probably remove, but maybe we would need to remove some of the soil around it. Hard to know without having more specific information. So C is one of those ones that sure seems like a good answer, especially if you read the phase one, but it's not the right answer for an architect. An architect is not going to be telling the owner yes, you should remove the asbestos. The environmental engineer is the one who's going to be doing that, and the way they're going to be doing that is through the phase one and phase two. So let's look at some of the other answers and see what we get. A, remove the first 3 feet of contaminated soil and follow the phase one recommendations. Again, there's really nothing that says that 3 feet of soil needs to be removed yet. We just don't have that information. It doesn't say that anywhere in the phase one. So there's no reason why we would be going out of our way to make that up to talk to the owner. So it's not going to be A. So then the final one is D, encapsulate the site with concrete pad and prepare for testing. Well, again, maybe that's what we're going to do, but we just don't know. It's not our place to make that decision. So our place is to help the owner and to recommend to the owner that they get the next phase of the report. And the reason that they would need to get a next phase is because the phase one says you need to get a phase two. Often, when you do a phase one, they'll go through the history of the site, they'll go through the photographs, the aerial photographs, and they'll say, yeah, we don't really need to worry about it. It doesn't look like there's anything. I wouldn't worry about it unless some specific information comes. At which point, you can go ahead and recommend, phase one doesn't say that we need a phase two. I recommend we move forward with our design. That's fine. But you would never be saying, I recommend that we paint over the lead paint and hire my Uncle Jimmy to take the asbestos out, and by the way, let's just fill that oil tank with concrete. Like, that's way too specific information. You don't have enough information to be able to answer that. So the best answer in this case, because the phase one said so, get a phase two environmental report, which is where they do all the testing and really get into it. And then there'll be a lot of recommendations, and you would help the owner sort of parse the recommendations that came from the phase two. You might have a couple choices, and some might be more costly than another, and so you might be part of helping them to understand it, but you're not going to tell them what to do when it comes to environmental.